This is pride. I typed this all out, but I wanted to make a video because I struggled with this for so long. But punishing ourselves and refusing to forgive ourselves, I learned is actually a form of pride. And you might think, well, the fact that I'm withholding forgiveness for myself and I'm beating myself up, that's humble and that's meek of me. And that's me thinking of myself as lowly because I don't deserve anything. When really all it's saying is, God, my standards are higher than yours. And while you might forgive me and while you cast my sins away and they're as far as the east is from the west and you remember them no more, God, I'm better than you. So I'm still going to remember this. Once I realized that was pride, because most people think it's pride is like you're walking around being arrogant. Like people would say that I'm prideful because I say I'm the bomb or because I've accepted God's forgiveness. But really, it's the exact opposite. We're saying that what God sent his son Jesus to do on the cross was enough for everybody else. It was enough for those murderers that hung next to him. I think one of them wasn't a murderer. It was enough for them, but it wasn't enough for us. And I started to think about that. I'm like, geez, like that's the last thing that I would want when you're in that situation, when you're feeling guilt and shame. The last thing that you want is to feel prideful because you're like, what I did is so bad. I don't feel any pride in it at all. But refusing to forgive ourselves, beating ourselves up and feeling like we don't deserve anything, we're not the one that gets to say that. God is. And see, shame, that does not come from God. That doesn't. There's a sweet conviction that comes with it where you will feel a moment of, there will be remorse and maybe even some guilt, but it's quickly relieved by the loving grace of our Father. People got to understand that. We forget that so often. We think we're helping God by helping him punish us. And he's like, but I'm not punishing you. Think about if you have children. Your kids mess up. They don't clean up their room. They, don't study for a test or they do something bad. Okay, hey, you're in trouble. Like you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have been disrespectful to a teacher. You shouldn't have been destroying Sephora. You shouldn't have pushed the lady in Sephora. You shouldn't have grabbed the makeup from the lady in Sephora. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. We address them. We deal with it. There might be a consequence if it's appropriate, but we're not every single day being like, oh, well, remember that time? Every single morning they wake up. Good morning, Penelope. Just wanted to remind you, you were bad yesterday. Good. It's Tuesday. Good morning, Penelope. Just want to remind you, you were bad the next day. We don't do that to our children. God doesn't do it to us, but we feel like we should do it to ourselves. This was the biggest thing for me. Realizing that pride is not just what people think it is, of this like, oh, some arrogant SOB that thinks they've never done anything wrong. There's people that are walking around with this fake facade of humbleness and lowliness and meekness, which really is a form of pride and saying, God, I know better than you and your cross wasn't enough. So there's something that you got to settle, and this settles it all. Either the cross was enough or it wasn't. And if it was enough, you have to forgive yourself because he forgives you. People hate this, but the cross is literally there for people that have committed some of the most egregious acts, crimes against children. The cross is still for them. And that can be irritating sometimes because it's like, God, I remember when God dealt with me on this. It's like, God, how could you love that person that did that horrible thing? Like they get to go to heaven if they ask for forgiveness. But they did this thing that's so horrible. God said to me, if it's for them, it's for you. If it's for you, it's for them. I don't get to say who it's for. And a lot of times when we get upset with people because we feel like they should still be paying a punishment that God has already paid. And that's why a lot of Christians get bothered. They want everyone to feel like, think that they're perfect. And they get offended sometimes that God still loves that person that committed that egregious act, that committed that crime, that disgusting, heinous crime. It's like, God, you can love them and me. He can. He can. So either the cross is enough or it isn't. And I choose to live my life on a daily basis. And it's not easy every day. I have to remind myself when I start to beat myself up, when I'm reading hundreds of comments on a daily basis, wishing death on me, horrible things. Either the cross is enough and it settles it, or it doesn't.